Ricky with the Tuft by Mrs. Crake. Once upon a time, a queen had a little son who was so ugly that for a long time the poor little baby was thought hardly human. However, a good fairy who presided at his birth assured his mother that, though ugly, he would never be disagreeable. Moreover, she bestowed on him the power of communicating this gift to the person he should love best in the world. At this, the queen was a little comforted, and became still more so when, as soon as he could speak, the infant began to say such pretty and clever things that everybody was charmed with him. I forgot to mention that his name was Ricky with the Tuft, because he was born with a curious tuft of hair on the top of his head. 7 or 8 years after this, the queen of a neighboring country had 2 little daughters, twins, at whose birth the same fairy presided. The elder twin was more beautiful than the day, but the younger was so ugly that the mother's joy in the first was all turned to grief about the second. So, in order to calm her feelings, the fairy told her,
"One daughter shall be as stupid as she will be pretty, while the other would grow up so clever and charming that nobody would miss her want of beauty, my dear queen."
"Heaven granted! But are there no means of giving a little sense to the one who is so beautiful?"
"I can do nothing for her, my dear queen, nothing as regards her own fortunes, but I grant her the power of making the person who best pleases her as handsome as herself."
Accordingly, as the young princesses grew up, their perfections grew with them, and nothing was spoken of but the beauty of the elder and the wit of the younger. True, their faults increased equally. The one became uglier and the other more stupid day by day. The elder beautiful princess never had a word to say for herself, or else it was the silliest word imaginable. And she was so awkward that she could not place 4 teacups in a row without breaking one of them, nor drink a glass of water without spilling half of it over her clothes. Beauty is a great charm. Yet whenever the sisters went out together, those who were attracted by the elder's lovely face, in less than half an hour were sure to be seen at the side of the younger, laughing at her witty and pleasant sayings, and altogether deserting the poor beauty, who had just sense enough to find it out, and to feel that she would have given all her good looks for 1/2 of her sister's talents. One day, when she had hid herself in a wood, and was crying over her hard fate, she saw coming towards her a little man, very ugly but magnificently dressed. Who should this be but Prince Ricky with the Tuft? He had seen her portrait, had fallen desperately in love with her, and secretly quitted his father's kingdom that he might have the pleasure of meeting her. Delighted to find her alone, he came forward with all the respect and politeness imaginable.
"I cannot comprehend, Princess, how so charming and lovely a lady can be so very sad. Never did I see anyone who could at all compare with you."
"That's all you know."
"Oh, beauty is so great an advantage that if one possessed it, one need never trouble oneself about anything."
"I wish I were as ugly as you, and had some sense rather than be as handsome as I am, and such a fool."
"Oh, Princess, nothing shows intellect so much as the modesty of believing one does not possess it."
"I don't know that, but I know I am a great fool, and it vexes me terribly."
"If that is all, Princess, I can easily put an end to your grief, for I have the power of making the person I love best as clever as I please. I will do it, provided you consent to marry me."
"What? Marry a frightful creature like you?"
"Oh, I see that my proposal offends and grieves you. Well, I will give you a year to consider it."
Now the young lady was so stupid that she thought a year's end was a long way off, so long that it seemed as if it might not come at all, or something might happen before then. And she had such a longing to be clever and admired that she thought she would accept the chance of becoming so. Accordingly, she promised Prince Ricky that she would marry him 12 months from that day. No sooner had she said it than she felt a change come over her. She found she could at once say anything she chose, and say it in the most graceful and brilliant way. She began a lively conversation with Prince Ricky, and chatted so fast and so wittily that he began to be afraid he had given her so much cleverness as to leave himself none. When she returned to the palace, the court was astonished at the change.
Is that the princess talking?
Wow, clever.
She's keen. She, who had annoyed everybody by the impertinent, tasteless, or downright foolish things she uttered, now charmed everybody by her wit, her pleasantness, and her exceeding good sense. The king himself began to come to her apartment and ask her advice about affairs of state. Her mother, and indeed the whole kingdom, were delighted. The only person to be pitied was the poor younger sister, of whom nobody now took the least notice. Meantime, princes came in throngs to ask in marriage this wonderful princess, who was as clever as she was beautiful. But she found none to suit her, probably because the more sense a lady has, the more difficult she is to please. As for her promise to Ricky with the tuft, given in the days when she was so dull and stupid, it now never once came into her head. One day, being quite perplexed by her numerous suitors, she went to take a solitary walk and think the matter over. By chance, she came into the same wood where she had met Prince Ricky. There, all of a sudden, she thought she heard a queer running about and chattering underground. By and by, the earth opened, showing a great kitchen filled with cooks cooking a great banquet. They were all working merrily at their several duties.
What is all this about?
If you please, madam, we are cooking the wedding dinner for Prince Ricky with the Tuft, who is to be married tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
The princess all at once recalled her promise. She became so frightened that she thought she would faint, and she became more anxious when she beheld Prince Ricky dressed splendidly, like a bridegroom.
You see me, princess, exact to my word, and I doubt not you are the same, come to make me the happiest man.
Prince, I must confess that such was not my intention, and I fear I shall never be able to do as you desire.
You surprise me, princess.
I can well believe it. If I had to do with a brute instead of a gentleman of sense and feeling, I should be very uneasy. But since I speak with the cleverest man in the world, I am sure he will hear reason, and will not bind me, now a sensible woman, to a promise I made when I was only a fool.
If I were a fool myself, princess, I might well complain of your broken promise. And being, as you say, a man of sense, should I not complain of what takes away all the happiness of my life? Tell me honestly, is there anything in me, except my ugliness, which displeases you? Do you object to my birth, my temper, my manners?
No, truly, I like everything in you, except your appearance.
Then, princess, I need not lose my happiness. For if I have the gift of making clever whomsoever I love best, you are also able to make the person you prefer as handsome as ever you please. Could you love me enough to do that?
I think I could.
With her heart greatly softened toward him, she wished that he might become the handsomest prince in all the world. No sooner had she done so than Ricky with the Tuft appeared in her eyes the most elegant young man she had ever seen. Non-believers have said that this was no fairy gift, but that love created the change. They declare that the princess, when she thought over her lover's perseverance, patience, good humor, and discretion, and counted his numerous fine qualities of mind and disposition, saw no longer the plainness of his features, and his awkward movements became only an interesting eccentricity, and his red nose gave him an air very martial and heroic. However this may be, it is certain that the princess married him, that either she retained her good sense or he never felt the want of it, and he never again became ugly, or at least not in his wife's eyes.